Go outside tonight. If the sky is clear, find the ecliptic, the band of sky where the sun and moon and planets travel. You don't need a telescope. You don't need an app. Just look south and trace the path that the moon follows, the highway that the planets wander along, the strip of sky that every ancient civilization on Earth considered the most important real estate in the heavens. Now count the constellations along that path. Not the 12 you were taught, the ones that are actually there. Because if you count carefully, if you trace the ecliptic with honest eyes rather than inherited assumptions, you won't find 12 constellations, you'll find 13. The 13th is called Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. It sits between Scorpio and Sagittarius. It's not small, it's not hidden, it's not a faint smudge of stars that requires imagination to see. It's an enormous constellation, one of the largest in the sky, and the sun passes directly through it for roughly 18 days every year, from approximately November 29th to December 17th. 18 days. More time than the sun spends in neighboring Scorpio. The sun literally travels through Ophiuchus, has always traveled through Ophiuchus, will always travel through Ophiuchus. And yet when someone asks you what's your sign, Ophiuchus is not one of the options. It was deleted, cut from the Zodiac like a character written out of a script between drafts, still visible on stage, still standing in the light, but no longer part of the story. I found this years ago and filed it away as astronomical trivia. An interesting footnote, a curiosity about the difference between the astronomical zodiac and the astrological one. Then I started pulling the thread. And the thread didn't end where I expected it to end. It didn't end with astronomy at all. It ended somewhere much deeper, much older, and much more deliberately buried than a simple discrepancy between star maps and horoscope columns. This raises a simple but critical question. If there have always been 13 constellations along the ecliptic, why were we given 12? The official explanation is clean. The Babylonians, who are credited with formalizing the zodiac around 500 BC, knew about Ophiuchus. They knew the sun passed through 13 constellations, but they were working with a 12-month calendar and 12 signs mapped neatly onto 12 months, so they dropped one. Ophiuchus was the odd one out. Administrative convenience, mathematical tidiness, nothing more. And if that explanation satisfies you, if you're comfortable with the idea that the civilization most obsessed with celestial precision in the ancient world simply dropped a constellation because it didn't fit their spreadsheet, then you can stop reading here. But I couldn't stop, because the deeper I went, the more that explanation sounded less like history and more like a cover story stretched over something it wasn't designed to conceal. Start with who Ophiuchus was. Because constellations aren't just star patterns. They're stories. They're identities. They carry mythological weight that the civilizations who named them considered sacred. And Ophiuchus carries a very specific story, a story that, once you hear it, makes the deletion feel less like administrative convenience and more like something deliberate. Ophiuchus is identified with Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine and healing, not minor healing, not herbalism or folk remedy, the deepest healing, the kind that crossed the boundary between life and death. Asclepius, according to the mythology, learned the secret of resurrection. He could raise the dead. He could reverse the one irreversible thing, and for this, Zeus killed him. Struck him down with a thunderbolt, not because healing was forbidden, but because conquering death disrupted the order of the cosmos. The gods couldn't allow a being who could undo death to walk among the living. It would change everything. So they killed him and placed him in the stars, visible but powerless, a warning written in light about the knowledge that must not be used. The constellation they deleted from the Zodiac is the constellation of the healer who conquered death. Ask yourself whether that feels like a coincidence. The silence was deafening when I started looking at what Ophiuchus represented across cultures. Because the Greeks weren't the only civilization that associated this region of the sky with healing and forbidden knowledge. In Egyptian astronomical tradition, the same region of the ecliptic was associated with Imhotep, the architect, physician, and sage, who was later deified as a god of medicine. Imhotep, like Asclepius, was a mortal who ascended to divine status through knowledge, specifically knowledge of healing. The Egyptians placed this knowledge in the same part of the sky that the Greeks would later assign to Ophiuchus. Different culture, different millennium, same stars, same association, same theme of healing knowledge so powerful it bridges the human and the divine. In Sumerian tradition, the figure associated with this constellation was Enki, the god of wisdom, water, and creation. Enki was the keeper of the divine knowledge, the one who gave humanity the arts of civilization, including medicine. In multiple Sumerian texts, Enki acts against the decisions of other gods to preserve human life, to heal, to prevent the destruction that higher authorities have decreed. The parallels to Asclepius are so precise they feel less like independent mythology and more like translations of the same original story into different cultural languages. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. Across cultures, across millennia, the same region of the sky was associated with the same archetype: the healer, the one who holds knowledge of life and death, the one who is punished for knowing too much, the one who is placed in the heavens as a reminder of what happens when certain boundaries are crossed. And this is the constellation that was cut from the Zodiac, not the obscure one, not the unimportant one, the one whose mythological resonance was so deep, so cross-cultural, so fundamental to the human relationship with the sky that its deletion required the entire system to be restructured around its absence. As if they were following instructions they didn't fully understand. Now look at what the deletion did to the system, because removing Ophiuchus didn't just change the number of signs, it changed the dates, it changed the duration, it changed the meaning. The 12-sign zodiac assigns each sign approximately 30 degrees of the ecliptic, 30 days, 1/12 of the circle, but the actual constellations aren't uniform in size. Virgo spans over 44 degrees. Scorpio spans barely 7. The Sun passes through Scorpio in roughly a week, but the astrological sign of Scorpio covers a full month. The Sun passes through Ophiuchus for 18 days, but Ophiuchus doesn't exist in the astrological system at all. Pull up an astronomical chart yourself. Compare the actual positions of the constellations along the ecliptic to the dates assigned to the astrological signs. They don't match. Not approximately, not with minor discrepancies. They're fundamentally misaligned. The sign you were told you were born under, the one on your necklace, in your dating profile, on the mug someone bought you for your birthday, there's a significant chance it doesn't correspond to the constellation the Sun was actually in when you were born. And the reason is the deletion. Remove one constellation, redistribute its days across the remaining 12, and the entire system drifts away from the sky it claims to describe. The deeper I went, the more I realized that the zodiac most people know isn't a map of the heavens. It's a map of a decision to impose 12-fold symmetry on a sky that doesn't have it. A decision to delete the 13th constellation and pretend the system was always 12. A decision that was made so long ago and reinforced so consistently that the deletion itself has become invisible. People argue about whether astrology is real without ever asking whether the astrology they're arguing about describes the actual sky. It doesn't. It describes a simplified, edited, 12-part version of a sky that has 13 parts. And the part that was removed is the healer who conquered death. Here's where the thread connects to something I've found in other investigations. 13. The number keeps recurring. 13 months in the lunar year. 13 cycles of the menstrual calendar. 13 lunations in a solar year. The 13th month deleted from the calendar. The 13th hour deleted from the clock. And now the 13th constellation deleted from the Zodiac. Count the deletions. Seriously. Make a list. The 13th month, removed when the Gregorian calendar imposed 12 months. The 13th hour, erased when mechanical clocks standardized 12-hour cycles. The 13th constellation, cut when the Zodiac was fixed at 12 signs. The 13th floor, absent from buildings worldwide. The number 13 itself, stigmatized so thoroughly that an entire phobia exists around it. Triskaidekaphobia, a fear of a number, not of a predator or a disease or a height, a number. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. 12 replaces 13, every time, across every system that governs how we measure time, how we read the sky, how we build our buildings, how we organize our experience. 12 months, 12 hours, 12 signs, 12 apostles, 12 tribes, 12 notes in the chromatic scale, 12 inches in a foot, 12 members of a jury. The number 12 has been imposed on system after system with a consistency that goes beyond cultural preference and into something that looks like policy. And 13, the number it replaced, the number that corresponds to lunar cycles, to the female body, to the actual count of constellations along the ecliptic, to the natural rhythms that governed human life before the imposition of 12-based systems. 13 has been made into something feared, something unlucky, something to be skipped, avoided, deleted. Not because 13 is inherently dangerous, because 13 is the fingerprint of the old system, and every trace of the old system had to be removed for the new system to feel natural. The official explanation collapses here, because the deletion of Ophiuchus wasn't an isolated editorial choice by Babylonian astronomers. It was one deletion in a series of deletions that span millennia and continents and disciplines, all moving in the same direction, all replacing 13 with 12, all removing the natural count and imposing an artificial one, all severing the connection between human systems and the celestial and biological rhythms that 13 represents. Go back outside, find Ophiuchus in the sky. It's there, between Scorpio and Sagittarius, enormous, unmistakable once you know where to look. The serpent bearer, holding the snake that represents knowledge, standing in the part of the ecliptic that the Zodiac refuses to acknowledge. Visible to every human being who has ever looked up since the beginning of the species, deleted from the system that claims to describe what's up there. The deeper I went, the more the deletion of Ophiuchus started to look like the astronomical equivalent of something I've found in every other system I've investigated, the removal of a piece of knowledge that connected human beings to natural rhythms. The calendar deleted the 13th month, disconnecting us from the lunar cycle. The clock deleted the 13th hour, disconnecting us from the transitional rhythms of the day. The Zodiac deleted the 13th constellation, disconnecting us from the actual sky. Each deletion was presented as simplification, as improvement, as the replacement of primitive complexity with elegant order. 12 is cleaner than 13. 12 divides evenly. 12 is symmetrical. 12 is civilized. And with each deletion, the system moved further from nature and closer to something that could be institutionally managed, commercially exploited, and centrally controlled. A sky with 13 signs is a sky that matches the body, that matches the moon, that matches the rhythms that governed human life before the imposition of institutional time. A sky with 12 signs is a sky that matches the calendar, the clock, the fiscal quarter, the systems that govern human life under institutional authority. The deletion wasn't about astronomy. It was about which sky you're allowed to live under. the real one with 13 constellations, or the managed one with 12. I'm not telling you astrology is real. I'm not telling you your horoscope would be different if Ophiuchus were included, though it would be. I'm asking why the actual sky, the observable, measurable, scientifically documented sky, doesn't match the system that claims to be based on it. I'm asking why 13 keeps getting deleted from every system that governs human experience. I'm asking why the constellation of the healer who conquered death, the figure that every ancient civilization placed in the same region of the sky with the same mythological significance, was the specific constellation that was removed. I'm asking what Ophiuchus knew that we weren't supposed to remember. Go outside, look up, count to 13. The sky hasn't changed. The story they told you about the sky has. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.